Picture this. While everyone's been distracted by political drama and celebrity scandals, Britain's economy has been quietly building towards something that financial insiders are calling the perfect storm. 5 massive economic forces are about to collide in 2025, and when they do, the impact on your money, your job, and your future could be devastating. What's worse, the government knows it's coming, the banks know it's coming, but nobody wants to tell you the truth about just how bad things could get. The warning signs are everywhere if you know where to look. Major corporations are quietly laying off thousands while keeping it out of the headlines. Banks are tightening lending criteria to levels not seen since the financial crisis. And behind closed doors, emergency meetings are being held at the highest levels of government to figure out how to manage what's coming without causing mass panic. Today, we're going to expose exactly what's happening, why it's happening, and most importantly, what you can do to protect yourself before it's too late. If you want to stay ahead of these massive economic changes hitting the UK, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to Economy Reporter right now, because what you're about to learn could save you thousands of pounds and help you navigate the chaos that's coming. The first piece of this economic puzzle is something that's keeping Bank of England officials awake at night. They're trapped in an impossible situation with interest rates. Here's what they're not telling you. Inflation isn't actually under control. Sure, the headline rate has dropped from its peak, but dig deeper into the data and you'll find something disturbing. Core inflation, the stuff that really matters like food, energy, and housing, is still running hot. The bank knows that if they cut rates too quickly, inflation will roar back with a vengeance. But here's the catch. If they keep rates high, they're going to trigger a recession that could be worse than anything we've seen in decades. Right now, there are 1.4 million households due to remortgage in 2025. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. These are real families who've been protected by fixed-rate deals signed when rates were near zero. When those deals end, they're facing payment increases of £500, £800, even £1,200 per month. The mortgage brokers are already seeing the early casualties, people who simply can't qualify for new loans at current rates. One major lender privately admitted they're expecting default rates to triple by mid-2025. But that's not even the worst part. The real disaster is brewing in the commercial property sector. Office buildings, shopping centres, warehouses, they're all financed with loans that need refinancing soon. With remote work destroying office demand and online shopping killing retail spaces, these properties are worth far less than their loans. We're talking about a £300 billion time bomb that could take down several mid-sized banks. The government's already drawing up contingency plans for bank bailouts, though they'll never admit it publicly. And when those dominoes start falling, the ripple effects will hit every corner of the economy. Meanwhile, Britain's job market is hiding a dark secret that's about to explode into public view. The unemployment figures you see on the news, they're essentially fiction. Here's what's really happening. Companies across the country are keeping people on payroll but cutting their hours to nothing. They're called zombie jobs, positions that exist on paper but provide no real income or security. The retail sector alone has 200,000 workers in this limbo, technically employed but earning next to nothing. Tech companies, financial firms, and manufacturers have been conducting stealth layoffs for months. They're using tactics like restructuring, voluntary redundancy, and performance improvement plans to quietly shed workers without triggering the legal requirements for mass redundancy consultations. One recruitment insider revealed that for every job posting in London right now, there are 147 applicants. In Manchester, it's 89. In Birmingham, 112. These aren't entry-level positions. We're talking about experienced professionals with decades of experience fighting over scraps. The government's own internal projections, leaked to economic analysts, show unemployment could hit 7.2% by the end of 2025. That's nearly 2.5 million people out of work. But even that terrifying number doesn't capture the full picture. It doesn't count the gig economy workers whose income has dried up, the self-employed whose businesses have collapsed, or the millions trapped in those zombie jobs. The real unemployment rate, the number of people who need work but can't find it, could be double the official figure. And here's where it gets even more disturbing. Young people are being completely shut out of the job market. Graduate schemes have been slashed by 64% compared to pre-2020 levels. Entry-level positions now require 3 to 5 years of experience. An entire generation is being forced to work unpaid internships, live with parents indefinitely, or take jobs that require no qualifications just to survive. The long-term economic damage of this lost generation will haunt Britain for decades. Now, let's talk about the housing market paradox that's destroying both buyers and sellers simultaneously. Everyone thinks flat house prices are better than a crash, but they're dead wrong. Here's why. When prices stay flat while inflation rises, houses become more expensive in real terms, even though the sticker price hasn't changed. Your salary isn't keeping up with inflation, your savings are being destroyed by it. But that house price, it's staying exactly the same, meaning you're falling further behind every single day. The mathematics are brutal. The average UK house costs £285,000. The average salary is £35,000. That's a ratio of 8.1 times earnings. Historical data shows that anything above 4.5 times earnings is unsustainable. But here's the trap. Prices can't fall because 5 million households would immediately go into negative equity. They can't rise because nobody can afford to buy. So we're stuck in this zombie market where nothing moves, nothing changes, and an entire generation watches their dreams of home ownership slowly die. But wait, it gets worse. Landlords are fleeing the market in record numbers. New regulations, tax changes, and the threat of rent controls have made buy-to-let investing a nightmare. In the last 18 months, 150,000 rental properties have been sold off. Where are all those tenants going? Nowhere. They're competing for fewer and fewer rentals, driving rents to insane levels. In Manchester, rents are up 47% in 2 years. Bristol, 41%. Even smaller cities like Norwich and Exeter are seeing 30% increases. The government's response? They're considering forcing banks to accept 5% deposits and 50-year mortgages. Think about that. They want people to take out mortgages that their children will inherit. They're so desperate to keep the housing Ponzi scheme going that they're willing to enslave multiple generations to debt. One senior civil servant, speaking anonymously, called it economic madness that will end in catastrophe. And speaking of government madness, the tax bombshell that's about to detonate is unlike anything Britain has ever seen. Forget what politicians are saying publicly. Behind closed doors, they're planning the biggest tax grab in modern history. The fiscal black hole isn't £22 billion like they claimed. Internal Treasury documents suggest it's closer to £65 billion and growing every day. They have no choice but to raise taxes, but they can't admit it without causing panic. Here's what's already being planned. Council tax is about to be revolutionised. They're not calling it a revaluation because that word is political poison, but that's exactly what it is. Properties haven't been reassessed since 1991. A 3-bedroom house in London bought for £200,000 in 2000, now worth £1.2 million, pays less council tax than a 2-bedroom flat in Newcastle. The new system will base payments on current values, meaning millions of homeowners will see their bills double or triple overnight. Income tax thresholds will remain frozen until at least 2030. With inflation, that's a stealth tax rise of £2,400 per year for the average worker. National insurance? They're planning to merge it with income tax, eliminating the upper earnings limit. That means high earners will pay an extra 2% on everything above £50,000. But the real shock is the wealth tax they're secretly designing. It's not officially announced yet, but draft proposals include a 1% annual tax on net wealth above £500,000, including your home equity. Capital gains tax is being aligned with income tax rates. If you're planning to sell investments, property, or a business, you could lose 45% to the taxman instead of the current 20%. Inheritance tax thresholds will be slashed, and they're even considering taxing pension pots when you die. One tax expert calculated that a middle-class family with a decent home and modest savings could face a total tax burden of 67% on their lifetime earnings. That's not capitalism, that's confiscation. And they're doing all this while lying about inflation. The inflation numbers you see on TV are pure propaganda. The official rate might be 4%, but that's calculated using a basket of goods that includes flat-screen TVs and foreign holidays, things people stop buying when times are tough. The real inflation rate, the one that measures what families actually spend money on, is running at closer to 9%. Food prices are up 38% in 2 years. Energy bills have doubled. Insurance premiums have gone insane. Car insurance alone is up 67% on average. Shrinkflation is everywhere but invisible in official statistics. That pack of biscuits hasn't gone up in price, but it's got 2 fewer biscuits in it. Your favourite chocolate bar is the same price but 20% smaller. Toilet paper rolls have 30% fewer sheets. Cereal boxes are taller but thinner, creating an optical illusion of value while containing less product. Corporations have become masters at hiding price increases in plain sight. Even worse, there's a 2-tier inflation system developing. Basic necessities, the things poor and middle-class families need to survive, are inflating at double the rate of luxury goods. Bread, milk and eggs are skyrocketing, while champagne and designer handbags barely budge. It's a hidden tax on being poor, and it's getting worse every month. The Bank of England knows this, but uses the averaged figures to justify their policies. They're literally using the spending patterns of the wealthy to make decisions that destroy the poor. And if you think that's bad, wait until you hear what's happening globally. The international situation is about to make everything infinitely worse. America's new economic policies are going to pull investment and talent away from Britain like a black hole. They're offering tax incentives, cutting regulations, and actively poaching British businesses. 3 major UK tech firms have already quietly moved their headquarters to Delaware. 2 more pharmaceutical companies are planning exits. The brain drain that's coming will devastate our economy for a generation. China's economic slowdown is another dagger aimed at Britain's heart. They're our 3rd largest trading partner, and their property market collapse makes our 2008 crisis look like a minor correction. When China stops buying, British factories stop producing. We're already seeing luxury brands reporting 40% drops in Chinese sales. That might sound distant and irrelevant, but those companies employ hundreds of thousands of British workers. When they start cutting costs, those jobs disappear. Energy Crisis 2.0 is brewing and nobody wants to talk about it. Our renewable energy push has left us dangerously dependent on weather patterns and foreign interconnectors. When the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine, we rely on importing electricity from France and Norway, but they're facing their own energy crunches. One energy insider warned that we're one cold, windless week away from rolling blackouts. The government's conducting secret exercises to practice rationing electricity to households. Imagine trying to work from home when you only get power for 16 hours a day. The Middle East situation threatens to send oil prices back above $100 a barrel. Our strategic petroleum reserves are at historic lows because the government quietly sold them off to raise cash. If supply lines get disrupted, petrol could hit £2.50 per litre within weeks. The knock-on effects would be catastrophic. Everything transported by road becomes more expensive, inflation explodes again, and the Bank of England would have to raise rates even higher, crushing what's left of the economy. But here's what all this means for you personally. Your savings are being systematically destroyed. That £10,000 you've got in the bank, with real inflation at 9% and savings rates at 5%, you're losing £400 a year in purchasing power. ISAs, premium bonds, even most fixed-term deposits, they're all guaranteed to lose money after inflation. The only people getting rich in this environment are those with massive debts that inflation is eating away, or those wealthy enough to invest in assets that outpace currency debasement. Your pension is in serious trouble. The average pension pot in the UK is £37,000. Financial advisors say you need at least £300,000 for a basic retirement. The state pension age will hit 70 by 2035 and probably 75 by 2045. If you're under 40, you need to accept that traditional retirement probably won't exist for you. The government knows this, but won't admit it because it would cause social unrest. They're hoping to inflate away their pension obligations while you're distracted by daily survival. Different regions will experience this crisis in vastly different ways. London will see a wealth exodus as the ultra-rich flee new taxes, creating a property crash in premium areas while affordable housing becomes even scarcer. The North will face industrial collapse as factories close and investment dries up. Scotland might attempt another independence referendum as economic desperation drives political extremism. Wales and Northern Ireland will become even more dependent on English subsidies that won't be there. Only the southeast outside London might weather this storm, but even they'll suffer from the national contagion. But here's the surprising part. Crises create opportunities for those prepared to seize them. Assets will become available at prices not seen in decades. Skilled workers who retain their jobs will have unprecedented bargaining power. New industries will emerge from the ashes of the old economy. The key is being positioned to survive the storm and capitalise on the recovery. That means eliminating debt now, building multiple income streams, learning skills that can't be automated, and most importantly, not believing the propaganda about everything being fine. The conversations happening in boardrooms and government offices right now would terrify you. They're not discussing whether this crisis will happen. They're discussing how to manage the social unrest when it does. They're wargaming scenarios where unemployment hits 10%, where banks fail, where the pound collapses. They're preparing for a world where the UK becomes a second-tier economy, where young people flee abroad in massive numbers, where the social contract completely breaks down. One senior banker told me, off the record, that they're advising their own children to emigrate. Think about that. The people running our financial system don't believe in its future. The next 18 months will determine Britain's trajectory for the next 18 years. The decisions being made right now in Whitehall and Threadneedle Street will echo through generations. We're standing at an economic crossroads where one path leads to managed decline and the other to complete collapse. There might have been a third path once, a route to recovery and prosperity, but that window closed when politicians chose to protect asset prices over productive capacity, when they chose to bail out banks over building infrastructure, when they chose short-term electoral gains over long-term economic health. So here's the bottom line that nobody else will tell you straight. The UK economy isn't recovering, it's not stabilising, and it's not going to get better anytime soon. We're in the early stages of a controlled demolition, where those in power are trying to manage the collapse in a way that preserves their wealth while shifting the burden onto everyone else. Your only defence is knowledge, preparation, and the willingness to make hard decisions before they're made for you. The storm is coming whether you're ready or not. The only question is, will you be one of the casualties or one of the survivors who rebuilds from the rubble?